She sits alone at a cafe, not waiting for anyone. Her phone is quiet, not broken, just still. There's no group chat lighting up, no weekend plans being negotiated, no we have to catch up soon messages she's been putting off. And if you saw her from the outside, you might think something is wrong. You might assume she's lonely, that she's been hurt, that she doesn't know how to connect. But here's what you wouldn't see. She's not missing anything. She chose this. There's a particular kind of woman the world doesn't quite know what to do with. The woman who keeps few friends or sometimes none at all. Not because she's been betrayed, although maybe she has. Not because she's difficult, although some have probably called her that. But because something inside her, something she may not even have the words for yet, has quietly and firmly said, no more. Not like this. And if that resonates with you, if you've ever looked around and realized your circle has shrunk, and instead of panic, you felt something closer to relief, then stay. Because what we're about to explore is not a diagnosis, it's a revelation. Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology, spent his life studying the hidden architecture of the human soul, and buried in his work is a truth that almost no one talks about, especially when it comes to women. The woman who keeps few friends is not failing at relationships. She may be answering a call that most people never even hear. Today, we're going to walk through 6 Jungian insights that explain what is really happening inside women who quietly release friendships, who refuse to perform closeness they don't feel, who choose empty rooms over full ones. And I want to be honest with you from the start. Some of this will be uncomfortable, not because it's harsh, but because it's true. And truth, when it finally reaches the right person at the right time, doesn't just inform, it unlocks. So if you've ever been told you're too distant, if you watched friendships fall away and wondered whether the problem was you, take a breath. You may be about to discover that what looks like isolation is actually one of the most sacred things a woman's soul can do. And before we begin, if anything in this resonates, leave a comment. Tell me, have you noticed your circle getting smaller? Did it frighten you, or did it feel like freedom? I'd love to know your experience. Let's begin with the first insight. 1. Your energy is not infinite, and your soul knows it before you do. There's a lie that gets told to women from the time they are very young. The lie sounds like warmth. It sounds like warmth. It sounds like kindness. It sounds like be nice to everyone, include everyone, make everyone feel welcome. And on the surface, there's nothing wrong with that. Who would argue against kindness? But underneath, a quieter message is being planted, one that most women never consciously hear, but absorb into their very bones. The message is this: your energy belongs to others. Your warmth is not yours to keep. You are selfish if you don't share yourself freely and constantly and without complaint. And so many women grow up pouring into friendships, pouring into conversations, pouring into people who never once stop to ask, are you okay? Do you have enough left for yourself? They pour at work, they pour at home, they pour at the school gates and the family dinners and the text threads that demand responses at midnight. They pour until one day they wake up and feel hollow. Not sad exactly, not angry exactly, just empty. Like someone left the tap running for years and nobody noticed. Not even them. Jung understood this at a level most modern psychology still hasn't caught up to. He described psychic energy, what he called libido, not in the sexual sense that Freud intended, but as the total life force available to a person at any given time. Think of it like an internal reservoir. Every thought, every feeling, every interaction draws from that reservoir. And crucially, that energy moves in directions. For some people, it flows naturally outward, toward the world, toward people, toward stimulation. Jung called these people extroverts. For others, The energy flows inward toward reflection, toward solitude, toward the deep interior life of the mind. These are the introverts. But here's what most people get wrong about introversion. They think it means shyness. They think it means shyness. They think it means social anxiety or awkwardness or not being good with people. Jung never said any of that. What he said was that the introvert's energy source is internal. They don't gain energy from social contact. They spend it. Every conversation, every interaction, every moment of being perceived is a withdrawal from that inner reservoir. And when the reservoir runs low, the introvert doesn't just feel tired, they feel invaded, compromised, as if the boundaries of their very self have been breached. Now think about what this means for the introverted woman specifically. Think about a woman who processes the world at this depth, who doesn't just hear a conversation but absorbs it, who reads the spaces between words, who picks up on the tension behind the smile, on the slight shift in someone's tone that everyone else missed. She walks into a room and within minutes she has unconsciously mapped the emotional state of every person in it. She knows who is pretending to be happy. She knows who is about to cry. She knows which couple had a fight in the car on the way over. She feels all of it, and she carries all of it. This is not a superpower that comes for free. This is enormous psychological labor, and the world never sees it. The world sees a woman who seems quiet, maybe a little distant, maybe not as fun as the others. The world does not see the thousands of invisible calculations happening inside her every moment she is in company. So when this woman begins to pull away from friendships, when she lets the phone ring, when she stops showing up at gatherings that leave her feeling more alone than solitude ever did, when she declines the invitation with a vague excuse and then sits in her quiet apartment and feels her whole nervous system settle like water returning to stillness, she is not being cruel. She is not being antisocial. She is surviving. Her soul has done the math that her conscious mind hasn't caught up to yet. It has looked at the accounts, calculated the deposits and the withdrawals, and said very clearly, we cannot afford this anymore. We are operating at a deficit. Something has to change. And there's something else Jung noticed, something that makes this even more important. When a person consistently overextends their psychic energy, when they keep pouring from an empty reservoir, the unconscious begins to compensate. It doesn't ask permission. It doesn't send a polite memo. It acts, and it acts through symptoms. Fatigue that sleep doesn't fix, irritability that seems to come from nowhere, a sudden overwhelming desire to cancel everything on the calendar, a creeping resentment toward people you once loved, people who haven't done anything wrong, but whose very existence now feels like a demand you can't meet, a strange sensation of being trapped in your own life, as if the social world has become a cage with no visible lock. These are not character flaws. They are not signs of depression, though they can look like it. They are emergency broadcasts from the deepest part of your psyche. They are your unconscious slamming the brakes because your conscious mind refused to slow down. They are your soul saying, in the only language it has, come back inside. You've given away too much. There's almost nothing left. So if you've ever felt guilty for not having the energy to maintain friendships, if you've screened calls from people you care about and then hated yourself for it, if you've chosen a quiet night alone over a social gathering and then spent the whole evening wondering what's wrong with you, hear this clearly. You are not broken. Your energy is a sacred resource. It is finite. It is precious. And something inside you, something wiser than your guilt, something older than your social conditioning, has finally started guarding it. That is not selfishness. That is the beginning of wholeness. That is your soul's first word in a conversation that will change everything, too. You have outgrown the mask, and most of your friendships were built on it. Jung gave us a word for something every woman knows, but few ever name. He called it the persona. The mask, the social face, the version of yourself you assembled piece by piece over years and decades of learning what the world rewards and what it punishes. The agreeable one, the helpful one, the one who laughs at jokes that aren't funny because making others comfortable is more important than being honest. The one who listens to other people's problems for hours and says, "Of course, I'm always here for you," when the truth is she's drowning and hasn't told a single soul. The persona isn't evil. Jung was very clear about that. It is necessary. It helps you hold a job, navigate family dinners, survive the social complexities of daily life. Without some version of a mask, we would all be impossibly raw, impossibly vulnerable, impossibly exposed. The persona is a kind of clothing for the psyche. It protects what's underneath. But here's where it gets dangerous for women specifically, and this is something that needs to be said very directly. Society doesn't just encourage women to wear a mask, it demands one. And the mask it demands is very particular. It must be warm, it must be available, it must be nurturing and agreeable and endlessly patient. It must smile when it wants to scream. It must say yes when it means no. It must give and give and give and never ever admit that the giving has a cost. A man who is quiet and reserved is often seen as strong, mysterious, interesting. A woman who is quiet and reserved is seen as cold, stuck-up, difficult. A man who has few friends is a lone wolf. A woman who has few friends is a problem. The double standard is so deeply embedded in culture that most people don't even see it operating. But women feel it. They feel it every time they force a smile, every time they make themselves available when they want to be alone, every time they say, "Sure, come over," when every cell in their body is saying, "Please, not today." And so, many women build entire social lives on this mask. They attract friends not because of who they truly are, but because of who they've been performing. The listener, the caretaker, the one who always shows up, always brings something, always remembers your birthday, always asks about your children, always has time, always has energy, always has room. And the friendships feel real. For years they feel solid and warm and dependable. Because the performance is so good that even the woman herself forgets she's performing. But then something shifts. Maybe it's a crisis, a death, a divorce, a diagnosis, something that cracks the ground open and makes it impossible to keep pretending. Maybe it's age, the slow, relentless accumulation of exhaustion that comes from decades of emotional labor. Maybe it's therapy, where for the first time someone asks, "But what do you want? What do you feel? Who are you underneath all that helping?" Maybe it's nothing dramatic at all. Maybe one morning she just wakes up and the mask feels heavier than usual, and she thinks, "I can't do this today." And then she thinks, "I don't want to do this ever again." And the moment she begins to show even a fraction of that true self, the self underneath the mask, the one with opinions and boundaries and anger and needs, something terrible and deeply revealing happens. The friendships start to crack. Not all of them, but enough. Enough to be devastating. Enough to make her lie awake at night, wondering, did they ever know me? Did they ever love me? Or did they only love the mask? Was I ever really a friend to these people? Or was I just a service they got used to? Jung wrote about this with extraordinary clarity. He said that when a person begins the process of individuation, of peeling away the false self to find the real one, the relationships built on the persona will naturally fall away, not because those people were necessarily bad, not because the friendships were fake in any simple sense, but because those connections were formed with someone who no longer exists. The mask version, the performing version, the infinitely accommodating version who never said no, never pushed back, never asked for anything in return. And when that version begins to die, When the real woman starts to emerge, the people who love the mask often cannot love what's underneath, because what's underneath is more complicated, more demanding, more honest, more real. And reality, as it turns out, is not what everyone signed up for. This is a grief that very few people talk about, and it is one of the loneliest griefs a woman can experience, because she can't point to a betrayal, she can't point to a fight, she can't even point to a clear ending. The friendships just dissolve like fog burning off in morning light. The calls get less frequent. The invitations stop coming. The text thread that used to pulse with life goes quiet, and she's left standing in the ruins of a social world that was built on a version of her that she can't be anymore. The friends who loved her availability but never asked about her dreams. The friends who loved her patience but vanished the first time she expressed frustration. The friends who said, "You've changed," as if change were a crime, as if growth were a betrayal, as if staying the same, staying small, staying masked was somehow more loyal than becoming whole. If this has happened to you, if you watch friendships dissolve not because of a dramatic incident, but because you simply stopped pretending, I want you to understand something at the deepest possible level. You are not losing people, you are finding yourself. And finding yourself is the most important thing you will ever do. It is also one of the most expensive, and for many women, the first and highest cost is the circle that once surrounded them. But here is what Jung knew, and what your pain hasn't let you see yet. The friendships that survive this process, the ones that don't dissolve when the mask comes off, those are the real ones. Those are the people who can love you without the performance. Those are the people worth keeping. And if none survive, if every single one falls away, then what you had before was not friendship. It was audience, and you no longer need an audience. You need witnesses, people who can see the real you and stay. They will come, but first, the stage has to be cleared. 3. The shadow holds the friendships you had to bury and the truths you buried with them. Now we go deeper, because the persona is only the surface of Jung's psychology. It's the outer layer, the visible one, the part of you that faces the world. But underneath it, in the parts of your psyche that don't get invited to parties and never show up in your Instagram posts, lies something else entirely. Something Jung considered the most important and most neglected element of the human soul. He called it the shadow. The shadow is everything you were taught to hide, everything you pushed down, locked away, denied, disowned, not because it was truly bad, but because someone at some point made you believe it was unacceptable. And for women, the shadow often contains the most powerful parts of their nature, their anger, not the polite frustration that society allows, but real anger, the kind that burns, the kind that says, "This is not okay and I will not pretend it is." Their ambition, not the modest, socially acceptable kind, but the fierce, driving hunger to be extraordinary, to be recognized, to take up space without apologizing for it. Their sexuality, not as an object of someone else's desire, but as a force of their own, a source of power and pleasure that belongs to them entirely. Their refusal, the raw, uncomplicated ability to say no. Not no, but thank you. Not no, I'm sorry, I wish I could. Just no. Full stop. Final. Their teeth, their claws, their capacity for destruction when destruction is what's needed, the ability to end things, to burn bridges, to walk away from what no longer serves them without looking back. Society told women these things were ugly, dangerous, unfeminine, too much, and so they buried them, not in a single moment, but over years, through thousands of small corrections. Don't be so aggressive. Don't be so intense. Don't be so sensitive. Don't be so serious. Don't be so much. Be less. Be softer. Be easier. Be nicer. And every time a woman obeyed, every time she pushed another piece of herself into the dark, the shadow grew. Not gone. Never gone. Just hidden. Waiting. Now here is where this connects to friendship in a way that might change how you see every relationship you've ever had. Think about the friendships in your life. Not the good ones, the complicated ones, the ones that ended badly or faded in ways you still can't fully explain. The ones that left a strange taste in your mouth, a residue of something unresolved. Now ask yourself this. Was there a moment in that friendship when you felt something you weren't allowed to feel? Jealousy, maybe. Not the petty kind, but the deep burning kind that says, she has what I want and I hate that I can't admit it. Or competition, the uncomfortable awareness that you are measuring yourself against this person and coming up short. Or a quiet fury that you couldn't name, a sense that this friend took and took and took, and you smiled and gave and never once said, what about me? Or a deep discomfort that had no logical explanation, a feeling that being around this person made you feel less like yourself, smaller somehow, more muted, more contained. That was your shadow talking. Jung said that we often attract people who carry the qualities we have disowned in ourselves. This is called projection, and it operates entirely outside conscious awareness. You don't choose it. You don't see it happening. You just find yourself inexplicably drawn to certain people and inexplicably repelled by others, and the reasons never quite make rational sense. The friend who is effortlessly bold when you spent your life being cautious, you admire her, you also secretly resent her, because her boldness reminds you of the boldness you buried. The friend who takes up space unapologetically when you spent your life shrinking. You love her confidence. You also find it exhausting because her expansion highlights your contraction. The friend who is emotionally chaotic, dramatic, unpredictable in ways you would never allow yourself to be. You're fascinated by her. You're also drained by her because her wildness touches the wildness you locked away, and it bangs on the door of its cage every time she's near. These friendships are not random. They are the shadow's curriculum. Your psyche chose these people not for comfort, but for confrontation. Not so you could stay the same, but so you could see what you've been hiding from yourself. And when those friendships end, when the jealousy curdles into distance, when the admiration turns to resentment, when you finally walk away with a sense of relief mixed with guilt, mixed with confusion, there is often a lingering feeling that you can't quite shake. You don't know exactly what went wrong. You just know it had to end. And you know somewhere deep down that the ending had less to do with the other person than you want to admit. What happened was shadow work, whether you called it that or not, whether you understood it or not. Your psyche was using that relationship as a mirror. And when the mirror showed you something you weren't ready to see, you turned away. That's human. That's normal. But it's also why some women find themselves with fewer and fewer friends as they get older and more self-aware. Each lost friendship was a shadow confrontation. And the women who are honest enough to sit with that, to ask themselves, what was I avoiding in myself? What did that person show me that I wasn't ready to claim? Those women are doing the deepest psychological work a human being can do. And there's another piece to this that makes it even more profound. The shadow doesn't only hold your darkness, it also holds what Jung called the golden shadow, your unlived potential, your buried gifts, the talents, strengths, and capacities you never developed because someone told you they were too much, too intense, too smart, too deep, too intimidating, too threatening. Sometimes the reason a friendship falls away is not because of anything negative at all. Sometimes it's because you are beginning to access your goal. You are starting to step into a version of yourself that is larger, brighter, more powerful than anything you've been before. And the people around you, the ones who are comfortable with the smaller version, the contained version, the version who never outshone anyone, simply cannot tolerate the light. They don't leave because you failed. They leave because you grew. And their leaving, as painful and confusing as it is actually your shadow's way of clearing the field, making room, removing the people who would keep you small so that your largeness has somewhere to go. If you've experienced this, if you felt friendship slip away precisely at the moments when you were becoming more yourself, trust the process. Your shadow knows what it's doing. Even when your conscious mind is grieving, your unconscious is building. For your home is the symbol of your soul, and you've stopped letting anyone in who doesn't deserve to be there. In Jungian psychology, the literal world is never just literal. Everything carries a symbolic dimension. The places you go, the objects you cherish, the spaces you create, they all reflect inner realities that your conscious mind may not fully grasp. And one of the most powerful symbols in all of depth psychology, one that appears in dreams and myths and fairy tales across every culture in human history, is the house, the home, the dwelling place, the container of the self. Jung believed that the house represents the psyche in its totality. Not just the mind, not just the personality, but the entire inner architecture of who you are. Every room is a chamber of the soul. The living room is the social self, the space where you present yourself to the world, where the persona is most active. The kitchen is where emotional nourishment happens, where sustenance is prepared, where the raw materials of experience are transformed into something that feeds you. A bedroom is your intimacy, your deepest vulnerability, the space where masks come off entirely and you are just a body in the dark, just a breathing self with no performance required. And then there are the hidden rooms, the basement, which represents the unconscious. It's dark down there, full of things you stored away and forgot about. Old memories, old wounds, old fears, things that rattle in the pipes at night, things you'd rather not look at. And the attic, which is the higher mind, the place of spiritual aspiration and abstract thought, the room closest to the sky, and the front door, that threshold between inner and outer, between self and other, between the sacred interior and the chaotic world. Now think about what it means when someone enters your home, not just physically, symbolically, energetically, psychologically. When someone crosses your threshold, they are not just stepping into your living room, they are entering your psyche. They are walking into the symbolic structure of your soul, and they bring with them everything they are, their energy, their unresolved emotions, their projections, their needs, their noise. For most people, this is fine. The doors swing open easily. People come and go. The house absorbs the traffic without much disruption. But for a woman who is psychologically sensitive, who is deep in the process of inner work, who has spent years carefully arranging the inner rooms, this is not a casual event. It is a breach. She can feel it the moment someone enters. Not just their physical presence, but their psychic weight. The atmosphere shifts. The quality of silence changes. The space that was hers, that was calibrated to her frequency, is now occupied by a foreign signal. And her unconscious, which was happily humming along in the quiet, doing its deep work of integration and healing, suddenly goes on alert. This is why many women with few friends report the same experience. They enjoy time alone at home. They feel productive, creative, peaceful. But the moment someone enters their space, even someone they care about, even someone they invited, something inside them tightens. They become hyper-aware of the other person's presence. they start performing again. The mask slides back on, and the inner work stops. Jung talked about this in terms of psychic contamination, not in a judgmental way, but as a description of how energy actually operates between people. When two psyches share a space, they influence each other. Emotions are contagious. Moods leak across the room. The anxious person makes the calm person anxious. The needy person makes the self-sufficient person feel drained. The loud person fills the silence that the quiet person needs. And for a woman who has developed a high degree of psychic sensitivity, either through nature or through the process of inner work, this contamination is not a metaphor. It is a physical experience. She feels it in her body, in the tension that creeps into her shoulders, in the heaviness that settles in her chest, in the restlessness that takes over her mind after a visitor leaves, as if their energy left fingerprints all over her inner walls, and she has to spend hours cleaning up. This is not drama. This is not oversensitivity. This is a woman whose inner perceptual system is operating at a level of refinement that most people don't develop. She's picking up real signals, processing real information, and it costs her real energy. So when this woman closes her door, when she stops issuing invitations, when she lets friendships drift because maintaining them would mean constantly opening her sacred space to contamination, she doesn't have the bandwidth to process. She is not shutting out the world. She is curating her soul. She is choosing with extraordinary care and hard-won wisdom who gets access to the inner rooms, and that is not coldness. That is not hostility. That is a woman who has finally learned that her psyche is not a public park. It is a sanctuary, a temple, a workspace for the sacred and difficult labor of becoming whole. And only those who can enter without disturbing the silence deserve to be there. Think about the friendships you've released. How many of them involved people who treated your space, your time, your energy as something they were entitled to? How many of them involved people who would show up unannounced, who would overstay, who would fill your silence with chatter, who would leave you feeling worse than they found you? Now think about the rare ones. The one or two people, if they exist, who can sit with you in silence and it feels like home, who can enter your space and the atmosphere doesn't change, who can be present without being invasive, who understand without being told that your quiet is not coldness and your boundaries are not rejection. Those people, those rare people, have earned the keys to the temple. Everyone else is a visitor. And visitors, no matter how well-meaning, eventually have to leave. 5. You are in the process of becoming, and becoming demands solitude. This is where everything begins to shift, because up until now we've been talking about what the world sees from the outside. The woman alone, the woman without a group, the woman who seems to be missing something that everyone else has. But now we need to talk about what is actually happening on the inside. And what is happening on the inside is nothing less than a fundamental transformation of the self. Jung called it individuation. It was in many ways the central concept of his entire life's work, the process by which a human being becomes who they were always meant to be, not who their parents wanted them to be, not who their parents wanted them to be, not who their culture shaped them to be, not who their persona pretends to be, but their true, essential, irreducible self. The self with a capital S, as Jung wrote it, to distinguish it from the small self of everyday identity. Individuation is the process of integrating all the fragmented, scattered, conflicting parts of the psyche into a coherent whole. The light and the shadow, the masculine and the feminine, the child and the elder, the wound and the gift, the part of you that wants to be seen and the part that wants to disappear, the part that rages and the part that forgives. All of it, gathered into one living, breathing, contradiction-holding self that is more than the sum of its parts. This is the work of a lifetime, and it does not happen in a crowd. It happens alone, not always, not entirely, not forever, but in its most critical phases, its most transformative moments, individuation demands withdrawal. It requires the woman to step back from the role she plays, the relationship she maintains, the identity she has constructed, and sit in the terrifying openness of not knowing who she is. She has to face what she's been running from, the grief she postponed because there was always someone who needed her more, the anger she swallowed because expressing it would make her difficult, the dreams she abandoned because they were too big, too impractical, too selfish, the parts of herself she amputated to fit into the shapes that others required. None of this can be faced in the middle of a social calendar. None of this can be processed over brunch. None of this can be worked through while maintaining the mask of pleasant normalcy that most social interactions require. Individuation needs a container, a sealed space, a crucible where the old self can dissolve and the new self can form. And for many women, that container is solitude. Chosen, deliberate, fiercely protected solitude. Jung saw this pattern again and again in his clinical work and in his own life. The people who were doing the deepest psychological and spiritual work were invariably the ones who had withdrawn from the busyness of the world, not because they were damaged, not because they were running away, but because their souls required what he called temenos, a sacred bounded space in which transformation can occur. The alchemists called it the vessel, the mystics called it the cell, the psyche calls it home. With the door shut and the phone off, and the world held at a distance that finally allows the inner voice to be heard. And for women, this withdrawal carries a particular weight, because women are so often defined by their relationships: daughter, mother, wife, friend, caretaker, connector, the one who holds it all together. The one who remembers birthdays and sends cards and organizes dinners and checks in on everyone and makes sure nobody falls through the cracks. The woman who steps outside these roles, even temporarily, is met with suspicion and concern that barely disguises judgment. Is she okay? Did something happen? She's so different now. She never comes out anymore. As if staying the same were a virtue, as if growth were a disease, as if the highest compliment you could pay a woman is that she hasn't changed. But here is what Jung's work makes undeniable. The woman who is willing to lose friendships in order to find herself is doing the bravest thing a human being can do. She is choosing the unknown over the familiar. She is choosing depth over breadth. She is choosing one real conversation with her own soul over 1,000 shallow ones with people who have never seen past the mask. And this process has stages. It is not a single moment of clarity, but a long, winding, often painful journey through the interior landscape. There is the initial withdrawal. From the outside, it often looks like depression, or antisocial behavior, or a crisis. People worry, people judge, people offer unsolicited advice. You should get out more. You need to make an effort. You can't just isolate yourself. And the woman nods and maybe even tries, goes to the dinner, makes the call, shows up at the party, and comes home feeling more depleted than before. Because the cocoon phase cannot be interrupted without cost, the old self is dissolving. It is supposed to dissolve. And the relationships that held the old self in place are dissolving with it. That is not a side effect. That is the process working exactly as it should. There is grief in this, real, deep, legitimate grief, because you are not just losing friends, you are losing the version of yourself that those friends knew. And that version, even if she was a mask, even if she was exhausting to maintain, was familiar. She was known. She had a place in the world. She knew how to act at parties and what to say in text threads and how to be the kind of woman that the world approves of. Letting her go feels like a small death, because it is one. Then comes the middle phase, the quiet one, the one that looks like nothing from the outside but feels like everything from the inside. Dreams become vivid, sometimes frighteningly so. Old memories surface without warning. Tears come for no apparent reason. You find yourself drawn to music you never liked before. Books you would have dismissed a year ago. Questions you always considered too impractical to bother with. You don't recognize your own tastes, your own desires, your own voice, because for the first time in your life, you're hearing the real one, and it doesn't sound like you expected. This phase can last months, sometimes years, and the loneliest part of it is that almost no one in your life will understand what's happening. They'll see a woman who stopped going out. You'll know you're a woman who finally went in, and then, slowly, tentatively, like dawn breaking over a landscape that has been dark for a very long time, there is emergence. The woman who comes through individuation is not the same woman who entered it. She is quieter, often, more deliberate, more selective. She doesn't need to fill silence. She doesn't need to explain herself. She doesn't need validation from people who never really saw her. She knows who she is. Not perfectly, not completely. Individuation is never finished. But she knows enough. She knows what's real and what's performance. She knows what nourishes her and what depletes her. She knows the difference between loneliness and solitude, and she has made her peace with both. Her friendships, if she forms new ones, are built on entirely different foundations, not on convenience or habit or mutual performance or the unspoken contract of emotional labor, but on truth, on recognition, on the rare and precious experience of being seen without explanation, accepted without conditions, loved without the mask. This woman may still have very few friends, perhaps even fewer than before she started. But the ones she has are real. They have weight, they have roots, and she would rather have one person who knows her soul than 100 who only know her smile. 6. The feminine wound runs deeper than you think, and releasing friendships is part of healing it. This is the insight that ties everything together, and it's the one that goes deepest because it touches something that is not just personal but ancient. Not just individual, but collective. Not just psychological, but spiritual. Jung spoke extensively about the feminine principle. He understood it not as a simple gender category, but as an archetypal energy, a fundamental force in the human psyche that exists in everyone, though it manifests differently in different people. And he understood, with a clarity that was remarkable for a man of his era, that the feminine principle has been wounded, not just in individual women, though it has been, but in the culture itself, in the collective psyche of humanity. For centuries, women have been told that their value lies in their connections, in their ability to hold families together, in their capacity to tend, nurture, maintain, repair the web of relationships that keeps communities functioning. And this capacity is real, it is powerful, it is a genuine expression of the feminine principle at its best, the ability to weave, to connect, to hold, to nourish. There is something sacred in it, but it has been weaponized. When a woman's worth is measured by the size of her social circle, when her femininity is judged by her willingness to maintain relationships at any cost to herself, when her goodness is equated with her availability and her selflessness is treated as the price of admission to being loved, then the feminine principle is no longer being honored. It is being exploited, and the woman who carries it is no longer free. She is a hostage to a definition of womanhood that was designed to serve everyone except her. This is the wound, the deep, collective, ancient wound that lives in the psyche of every woman who has ever been made to feel wrong for wanting less, for needing space, for choosing depth over quantity, for refusing to be the emotional infrastructure of everyone else's life, for simply being tired, bone-deep weary of performing connection she doesn't feel. Jung's understanding of the wounded feminine is not about weakness. It never was. It's about a strength that has been twisted by culture and turned back against itself. The ability to feel deeply becomes the obligation to feel for everyone. The gift of empathy becomes the expectation that you will carry everyone else's emotional weight. The capacity for intimacy becomes the demand that you be intimate with anyone who asks, that you open your doors and your heart and your energy to whoever shows up, because that's what good women do. And at some point, after years or decades of this, something in the woman breaks, or rather, something in her finally refuses to break any further. She says enough, not loudly, not dramatically. Often it happens so quietly that she barely notices it herself. She just stops returning calls, stops making plans, stops initiating, stops performing the elaborate, exhausting rituals of friendship maintenance that have consumed her for years. And the world looks at her with confusion and concern and sometimes judgment. And the world asks, what happened to her? And the answer is simple, even if it doesn't look that way from the outside. She is healing. She is reclaiming the parts of herself that were distributed to everyone else's needs before she was old enough to understand what was happening. She is taking back her energy, her time, her solitude, herself. She is doing the thing that the feminine wound made impossible for so long. She is choosing herself, not instead of others, but before them, for the first time. And in Jungian terms, this is not just personal healing, it is archetypal healing. When one woman reclaims her right to solitude, her right to choose her connections, her right to say no without apology or explanation, she is healing something larger than her own life. She is restoring a piece of the feminine principle that was distorted long before she was born. She is saying, through the quiet act of closing her door, the feminine is not a service, it is a sovereignty. Now let's talk about the archetype that holds all of this together, the one that has been present throughout this entire conversation, even if you didn't recognize her yet. The archetype of the wise woman. Picture her, not as the world pictures her, not young and smiling and surrounded by friends, but as the soul pictures her. She is older, not necessarily in body, but in spirit. She carries the weight of knowing. She has seen what happens when a woman gives herself away completely. She has seen the cost of endless availability, of relentless nurturing, of pouring from an empty cup until the cup itself cracks. She has seen all of it, and she has decided with the quiet authority that comes from deep experience that she will not participate anymore. Jung recognized this figure in myths and dreams and fairy tales across every culture. She goes by many names: the crone, the priestess, the oracle, the hermit, the medicine woman, the old one who lives alone at the edge of the village, the one everyone is slightly afraid of, the one they come to only when their own answers have failed. She is the archetype of chosen solitude, of earned wisdom, of the radical countercultural act of turning inward when the entire world is screaming at you to turn outward. And she lives inside every woman who has ever felt the pull toward fewer connections and more depth. Every woman who has cleared her social calendar and felt not loss but liberation. Every woman who has watched her circles shrink and recognized it not as a wound but as a harvest. the natural pruning of a life that is preparing for a different kind of fruit. When this archetype awakens in a woman's psyche, something remarkable begins to happen. The guilt that once surrounded her solitude starts to dissolve. The apologizing stops. The frantic need to explain herself, to justify her choices, to prove that she's not sad or broken or antisocial. It all fades like a fever breaking. Because the wise woman doesn't explain, she doesn't justify, she doesn't perform, she simply is, and her being is enough. If you feel this archetype stirring inside you, if you recognize her in the way you've been pulling back from the world, if you sense her presence in the quiet satisfaction you feel when you cancel plans and close the curtains and finally have the evening to yourself, then know this: you are not in decline, you are in ascent. The wise woman does not appear in lives that are falling apart. She appears in lives that are ready to be rebuilt from the inside out. She comes when the soul is ready for the deeper work, when the surface relationships have served their purpose and fallen away, when the mask has cracked enough to let the real face show through, and the path she offers is not easy. It is not comfortable. It requires you to sit with emptiness and trust that it is not a void, but a womb. Something is growing in that silence, something that needs the dark, something that cannot form in the noise and bustle of a social life that was never really yours. Now here's the question that I know is forming in your mind, because it forms in the mind of every woman who reaches this point. Where do I go from here? If releasing friendships is part of growth, does that mean I'm supposed to be alone forever? Is isolation the end point? No, absolutely not. And this is a distinction that Jung was very clear about, and that we need to be equally clear about here. Solitude is not the destination, it is the passage. There is a crucial difference between a woman who is alone because she is running from the world and a woman who is alone because she is preparing to meet it differently. The first is avoidance. The second is transformation. They look identical from the outside, but inside they could not be more different. One is frozen, the other is in motion. One is afraid of connection, the other is clearing space for a kind of connection that she has never experienced before, but somehow knows is possible. The woman who has done the inner work, who has faced her shadow, who has removed the mask, who has healed enough of the feminine wound to know the difference between genuine connection and performance, who has sat in the silence long enough to hear her own truth and recognize it as her own, that woman will open her door again. But when she does, everything will be different. She will not open it to just anyone. She will not open it out of obligation or guilt or fear of what people will think. She will not open it because the world told her she should. She will open it because she has met someone, or two or three someones, whose presence does not drain her but restores her, whose conversation does not deplete her energy but amplifies it, who can sit with her in silence and let the silence be holy instead of awkward, who have done enough of their own inner work to meet her in the deep place where masks are not needed and performance is not required. These connections are rare. Jung knew that. He did not promise a full social calendar at the end of individuation. He promised something better. He promised authenticity, and one authentic connection, one relationship built on mutual truth rather than mutual performance, is worth more than a lifetime of crowded rooms where nobody really knows anybody and everyone is pretending otherwise. So the path forward is not about rebuilding your social life on top of the old foundations. It's about tearing those foundations out entirely and starting from bedrock. And bedrock is your relationship with yourself. When that is solid, when you can sit alone in a room and feel whole, when your own company is something you genuinely enjoy rather than something you endure rather than something you endure, Then and only then are you ready to invite someone else in. And the invitation, when it comes, will be free of desperation, free of neediness, free of the old compulsion to be whatever the other person requires. It will be an offering of your real self. Take it or leave it. And either way, you will be fine. Let me leave you with some things to carry forward. Stop measuring your worth by the number of people around you. The world will try to make you feel small for having a quiet phone and an empty weekend. Let it try. You know what lives in your silence. You know the richness of an evening alone with your own thoughts, your own books, your own music, your own dreams. You know the deep, settling peace of a home that holds only your energy. That peace is not something to apologize for. It is something most people will never experience. Honor the grief. Letting go of friendships, even ones that needed to end, is still a loss. And compound losses, the kind where friendship after friendship falls away over months or years, can accumulate into a weight that is staggering. You are allowed to feel it. You are allowed to miss people who weren't good for you. You are allowed to miss people who weren't good for you. You are allowed to mourn the version of yourself that those relationships held in place. You are allowed to feel relief and sadness in the same breath. They are not contradictions. They are the texture of a life that is being lived honestly. Stop apologizing for who you are becoming. You do not owe anyone an explanation for the size of your circle. You do not owe anyone an explanation for the size of your circle. You do not owe anyone access to your time, your energy, your home, or your heart. No is a complete sentence. And every time you say it without guilt, without the elaborate justifications and apologies that women are trained to wrap around every refusal, you are reinforcing the walls of your inner sanctuary, not to keep people out, but to make the space inside strong enough to hold everything you are becoming. Trust the spiral. There will be days when the solitude feels heavy, when the quiet house feels too quiet, when you scroll through other people's photos of dinner parties and group vacations and wonder if you made a terrible mistake. Those days are part of it. They are not evidence that you were wrong. They are the spiral carrying you back through old territory so you can see it with new eyes. Each time you return to the doubt, you return a little stronger. Each time you choose yourself again, the choice takes less effort. And one day, it won't feel like a choice at all. It will just feel like breathing. Pay attention to your dreams. During this process, dreams become vivid, strange, sometimes overwhelming. The houses you walk through in dreams, the doors that open or stay locked, the rooms you discover that you didn't know existed, these are not random, they are maps. They are your unconscious showing you the interior architecture of your own transformation. Write them down. Sit with them. Ask them what they want you to see. They have more to teach you than any advice anyone will ever give you. And know that you are not alone in this. I know that sounds paradoxical, the woman who chose solitude being told she's not alone. But it's true in a way that goes beyond the social. Right now, all over the world, there are women doing exactly what you're doing, sitting in quiet rooms, releasing old bonds, facing their shadows, choosing themselves for the first time. They don't know your name, and you don't know theirs. But you are connected in the way that Jung described when he talked about the collective unconscious, the deep psychic ocean that underlies all human experience. You are part of an ancient pattern. The woman who withdraws to return. The woman who empties to be filled. The woman who lets the world call her strange because she knows that what she's doing isn't strange at all. It's sacred. Maybe right now, at this very moment, you feel something shifting inside you. A settling. A deep exhale. The kind of breath that comes when a weight you've been carrying for so long you forgot it was there is finally gently set down. That feeling is recognition. It's your soul saying, yes, this is what I've been trying to tell you. This is what I've been trying to tell you. This is what all that discomfort was about. This is why the friendships fell away. This is why the silence called. This is why you needed to be alone. You are not antisocial. You are not cold. You are not broken. You are not failing at womanhood or at friendship or at life. You are a woman in the process of becoming whole, and wholeness, real wholeness, the kind that Jung spent his entire life mapping, is not measured by how many people surround you. It is measured by whether you can sit alone in a room and feel complete, whether you can meet your own eyes in the mirror and recognize the person looking back, whether you can hold your own silence and find it full. Jung spent decades descending into the deepest caverns of the human psyche. He confronted the shadow, traced the movements of the archetypes, decoded the language of dreams, and mapped the treacherous, beautiful path of individuation. And from all of that work, from all of that searching, he arrived at a truth so simple it could be spoken in a single breath. The soul wants to be whole, and it will rearrange your entire life to get there. Your shrinking circle is not a failure, it is a rearrangement. Your solitude is not a prison, it is a chrysalis. Your silence is not emptiness, it is preparation. And the woman who will emerge from all of this whenever she is ready, on her own timeline, in her own way, by her own definition, will not need a crowd to feel complete. She will not need applause. She will not need approval. She will not need the constant reassurance of social contact to know that she exists, that she matters, that she is real. She will know it in her bones, in her quiet house, and the steady rhythm of her own breathing, in a room where no one needs anything from her except the universe itself, which asks only that she become who she was always meant to be. So tonight, when the world goes quiet and you're alone in your space and the silence settles around you like something ancient and familiar and holy, don't fight it. Don't reach for the phone. Don't open the group chat. Don't scroll through other people's lives looking for evidence that you should have more. Do more. Be more. Just sit with yourself, just for a moment, and listen. Your soul has been waiting a very long time to speak, and she has so much to tell you.